Conditions availability.
Want the lowdown this Black Friday? Then let's get... Because Virgin Media is dropping prices low with some red hot deals. Like a 43-inch 4K Ultra HD Toshiba Smart TV. Ready to get down low? Search Virgin Media Bundles. New customers, Virgin areas available with bigger and ultimate with bundles with Sky Sports and Sky Movies for £57 a month. 80 month minimum term, £35 setup fee while stocks last, terms apply.
Thought PPI was all over. Think again. Fast Track Reclaim, a claims management company, can check PPI on every credit card, loan and mortgage you've ever had. And with Fast Track Solicitors legal action, you could still claim it back. It's not over there. Find out. Text yes to 82727.
Nah, it's wobbly.
Check PPI. You can claim for a solicitor of your choice.
A
little bit.
Euronics is the home of electricals, proud independent retailers serving our local communities, especially through these strange times. And with over 600 stores across the UK, we are here for you now more than ever. While some stores may be closed, we are still available for all your home appliance needs. You can continue to order online for click and collect and delivery with COVID-safe installations. We appreciate you supporting local businesses, so shop with your local Euronics today. To find your nearest Euronics retailer or shop online, visit us at euronics.co.uk.
Your face mask. It may look good, but does it offer the protection for others and your loved ones against COVID-19? Copper Clothing have created a face mask that does just this. COVID-19 could live on a normal, unwashed face mask for up to 7 days. But Copper Clothing's copper infuser face mask destroys 99.99% of COVID-19 in a matter of minutes, and it has certified filtration. Which one would you rather have? One that just looks good, or one that's also certified by Colorado State University? Go to copperclothing.com now to order yours. Stay safe.
At Nissan, we integrate innovation and technology into our cars to help you live richer. To make your drive a lot less and a lot more. To find the Nissan that's right for you, join us at our Innovation Celebration event from the 2nd to the 30th of November and get an extra £500 deposit contribution towards a Nissan Juke, Qashqai and X-Trail. Available at 4.99% APR representative. Search Nissan. Available on PCP Nissan Finance. Order by 30th November. Register by 17th December. Participating dealers only. Excludes Vizier. T's and C supply. Visit nissan.co.uk.
I know he's here somewhere. I just had the tab open. But which one? There's a million. Oh, not that one. Not that one. Where are you, you shiny little phone? Oh, I know. Search history. Oh, get rid of that. And that. Delete.
Your search is over. Our best ever Black Friday is here. Save up to £400 on the stunning Samsung Galaxy S20 FE. Search on
I need to do your window. Well, I didn't do anything on the weekend, did I?
£360 airtime discount based on 36-month contract. Auto refresh credit by Telefonica UK Limited. Eligibility and terms apply.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC with James O'Brien.
It's 12 minutes to 12. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC, where we turn our attention next to pubs.
Let's see, shall we take bets if we find the car?
Listen, you know what it's like these days. If I say something in isolation and you clip it up, then I come across as an absolute monster. But I genuinely want you to remind me. Well, I don't need telling why pubs should be protected, because I do passionately believe that pubs need looking after. I think they're an intrinsic part of our culture and our communities. But on the other hand, alcohol is a terrible blight upon many families and many lives. We are not that far away from an era where family allowance had to be introduced. The man of that, this is a little bit simplistic, but bear with, would routinely spend a week's wages on Friday night in the pub, and there'd be naffle left for the lady of the house to feed the family with. So, you know, I do appreciate that one can have too much of a good thing, would be how I would phrase it. But even more so, talking there to Peter Foster of the Financial Times about the curious, disproportionate weight placed upon fishing, and I thought Pete highlighted perfectly that, of course, if you do this for a living, it's really important. You point out that fishing is a tiny part of the national balance sheet. You are not suggesting that fisher folk should be left to go to the wall. You know, that's a very ugly right-wing position where they talk about competition when really they're talking about a race to the bottom, and I guess that's how you could end up arguing with a straight face that going bust, farmers going bust is good for farming somehow. Fisher folk going bust is not good for fishing. So the personal subjective experiences are not the same as the universal objective truths here. And that is why I wonder whether you would like to take a moment to tell me that actually you think pubs are being unduly prioritised. I will disagree with you, but very politely, because it's not a bridge I'm going to die on, and I'm fairly confident that unless you bring something absolutely sparkling to the table, you're not going to be able to change my mind. But of course there are hundreds of thousands of people listening who may well benefit from your insights in a way that I'm probably too biased to do so myself, by which I simply mean that every pub that shuts is a scar upon my heart. I'm going to have a quick word with Scott, who's in Brentford, and then we'll catch up with the political editor of LBC, Theo Washwood, about some of the stuff that's
this week.
seeping out of Downing Street.
Don't know when.
Scott's in Brentford. Scott, what would you like to say?
There.
Hi, James.
On
Good morning.
Thursday.
Hello.
So, I'd like to talk a little bit about Tier 2 and the
On
lack of
Thursday, honey bunny.
clarity and communication that
Okay,
we're
okay.
getting as publicans. So I have a pub in Brentford. I also have a restaurant in Clapham. So it's been a hard 2020, but we're all healthy.
Well, what pub have you got in Brentford, if you don't mind? You don't have to tell me. If you don't
It's the
mind.
Magpie and Crown in Brentford.
Whereabouts is that one?
It's actually in the middle of the regeneration. I
Yes.
actually retired from the pub game a few years back when I sold my group of pubs, only to realise I missed it. And then this was closed due to the building works, and I decided to get it back open. So it was tough.
Is it, so it's a very old school pub, the Magpie and Crown, pretty much on the high street, right? As you
Yes.
come over that thing on the left where they've got all the new stuff going on and the fancy cars, the Duke of London, I
See
think it's
what's
called.
in
You're
the
just
car.
beyond
If we
that.
find the car.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you know? Sorry.
Do you know
because I've
where
done a
we
lot of
go?
Chaddesley Corbett and
Keep
Worcestershire
going
Tribune
further
this
and then
morning. Did
turn
you
right.
know?
I tell
You know
you
the
when.
Weir, which is just over the way from you.
So the road of
You're one of your closest
Eurosport.
rivals, I imagine, geographically speaking.
Apparently
Yeah.
there's lots of
Did you know
bikes
that
and
the
stuff. I have a
artist
faint
JMW
idea where it
tunnel
is,
is
and then there's a white door,
did
so
indeed.
that's as good as the
It used to be
description
called
I
the
got,
White
you know.
Door.
But
No, I only found
apparently
out
it's
this
parked
weekend.
outside, so if it's in a parking spot, we should find it, you know.
Been in the pub.
It might have been.
What worries me is that the fucking thing is open, you know. That bothers me.
No, he's going to take it.
No, not the car. They can take the car, but I want the doors.
We've been closed twice
Yeah,
this
to get the
year.
new doors is a hassle and lots of money, you know.
Yeah.
The second time with this lockdown, pre-lockdown, we were promised Tier 2 grants
Yes.
and to be
Ah.
backdated.
What?
We've only just been paid our
What?
grants from this lockdown in the last
What
few
are
days.
what?
Right.
And
I'm
we're
just
now being
thinking the
told that
doors
Tier
might
2
have gone.
grant is all
That's the
dependable on
excuse
your
he'll use.
top
Yeah,
line
all right,
now
fair
being
enough.
reduced. So you get a percentage of it if the top line is reduced by so much and a percentage by another.
That's
Now,
why I didn't want to wait longer. He contacted me just now, you know. Apparently he was there at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
So
In between the two
if he took them, he took them. If they were ever there, you have to turn right here, please.
Yeah.
in order to get people through the doors.
Yeah.
But we're only just
That
now
does
being
not
told,
ring
having planned
very
our
well.
reopening,
No.
having planned our staffing and our
No, it
costs
doesn't.
based
Because
on
it gives them
Tier
an
2 grants
excuse and say, oh
coming
no, they
into
were
it.
there, obviously something's
Of
happened.
course. Now
We now
someone
have
took
to
them.
spend a whole load of
That's why I
admin
said,
time
why are you leaving the
and
car
probably won't get
open?
anywhere near the grant we thought. And to add into that miscommunication, we've now been told
So
that
now, well, hold on, keep going straight.
And people can hang around a
Then the
little bit
next
longer.
left,
And
got
then
this
last
one.
week when another member of the
Left,
cabinet
yeah?
was on with Nick for
Where the bus is coming out, that
Okay,
one.
then.
It's almost
You see,
as
so
if
that is the
right
butterfly,
arm
but
doesn't know
it's
what the left arm's
this, and
talking about.
apparently now we'll have to go slowly.
Dirty plates on the tables for everybody, so that way they can hang around and finish their beer.
What colour
Do
is
you
it?
not? Are you aware?
This is it. This is the
Okay.
I have rented out, franchised
There you
out my
go.
kitchen at the time since I've reopened.
Right.
Do you want to jump
Small
out?
operators.
And do
Now,
what?
I'm not
I
gonna
don't know,
get
Danny.
operated
Well, we need
this
to do it
time.
together. How are we gonna? I'm gonna do it alone.
So you're gonna have
I will have
Okay, well, I suppose we've just got to...
myself.
Yeah.
I don't know really, I mean this is not a good place, is it?
Well,
At the end
this
of
is the
which
place it
you
is. I
want to
can't
go
go.
Right, is the
to
car
farming
drivable?
out the
No.
catering side of things
It's
to
not
somebody, so
drivable.
there's one less night, one less headache that you have to deal with yourself.
But also with the tier 2
Turn
draft,
around.
they're talking
Yeah,
about
okay, hold
scaling
on.
down depending on your
thinking.
costs of your total revenue. They haven't taken into account these grants, and I'm sorry to be a London Central speaker.
I can't just turn around like this, can I?
And they
It's
are
not going here.
London.
No, you
you're
can't
getting
go
the
in
same
there, it's a
grant
long way.
my grant during the last month
Oh, maybe not.
was £2,000. That didn't leave me
See?
any money to
He's
spend
doing the
to pay
same.
myself. Fortunately, I have other fingers in other pies, so I'm fine. But there's an awful lot of people in this world that just don't have anything else.
Right.
So by the time they paid all the bills, thrown away all the beer again.
Just pull up near the car, put the hazards on and
I
fuck
don't know
it.
if this is an irresponsible question.
Oh,
I sense you'll just tell me
somehow
to clear
or
off
another.
if it is. But can we put percentage? I mean, the fearful for the very survival of what sort of percentage of pubs?
I think your London pubs will have a certain protectiveness around because of the sheer numbers of populace.
Yes.
But I do think you're talking outside of London. I think you're talking 30 to 40% closure come March. March will be the problem.
And then
We
the
have
final
to
question.
3 months in advance.
Remind me why. You know you're preaching to the choir with me, and I look forward to raising a glass with you when you're reopening, probably sooner rather than later, actually, Scott. But remind others why it matters, why that figure there that you just said strikes terror into my heart, but why does it matter beyond my own personal enthusiasm?
So I'll give you an example of my lunchtimes here in the Magpie and Crown before and in between the 2 lockdowns.
Yes.
I don't make enough money to open, so I do it myself. But there's an awful lot of old boys that come into this pub that it's their half hour of conversation they get per day.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, I'm
they
seeing
literally,
it. Yes.
Right, then where was it?
There, where this car is, with the hazard is.
To sit down at a distance, obviously
Oh,
now,
yeah.
and just have a chat.
Well, you're a good man.
There's a lot of lonely people come into a pub just for the one.
And where else do you
have their
go?
little chat.
Where else do you go? That's the
We're going to lock the road, double parking there,
started
aren't
walking
we?
a lot more in the
Because
last
this
few weeks
is
than I usually do because
Backed up quite a
A,
way.
it's very good for your
With
mental
me
health.
double
and B,
parking there,
it's,
nothing will pass.
Yeah.
good for your physical health as well. And there's not a lot else to
Maybe
do.
we
but
can
when you-
reverse
when-
it to
so I walked
that,
all
or
the way,
opposite. There
if you
is
know London
some
well, I
space.
walked pretty much all the way home, the
Okay,
other
we'll
day,
have a
which is
look.
from Leicester Square to roughly where Scott is over in Brentford. And what was really weird about it was there'd been no stopping off points. I needed a wee actually to put 2 finer points on it. But if you're lonely and you're looking for somewhere to sit where you can actually have a conversation
It's a
with
shame
people,
here. You don't fit there.
Not
pubs
there,
are all
no.
shut. What are you going to do?
This is it.
So there's a big part.
Where
of
were the
problem.
doors?
Scott, thank you.
Do you want to go and have a look, see that the doors are in there? Yeah.
Cost-benefit analysis that all the Brexiters who
I've got a
thought
nasty
cost-benefit
feeling
analysis
about
were a
this.
waste of time, but now desperately want them for the coronavirus.
so do
That
I.
hasn't emerged yet, but something has.
Yes, we have a statement this morning from Robert Jenner, the Housing, Communities and Local Government Secretary, confirming that for the rest of, for December, once the lockdown comes to an end, and then into the entirety of January, it is going to be possible for shops to open for longer. Now, just to give you the context of the current rules, shops are allowed to open from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. unless they have specific permission from the council. From what Mr. Jenrick has said in a written ministerial statement to MPs this morning, of course we knew this was coming, he wants councils to take a positive approach when they receive applications to extend opening hours for 24 hours, if that's what shops want to do. He goes on to say the government recognises that longer retail opening hours could have a temporary impact on local residents, but this needs to be balanced by the significant public interest in ensuring there is a safe retail environment during this busy period. In other words, by extending the hours, people have longer to go shopping, and therefore you are going to reduce the number of people in a shop at any one time in the run up to Christmas and of course post Christmas sales.
And also, you know, one ordinarily feels a bit of concern for staff at points like this, whether or not the workforce would be amenable. But presumably, A, no one can be forced to work. Might be sounding a bit naive there, but more pertinently, one imagines people would be glad of the overtime.
Yes, so, and I should just add, of course, that this is only Monday to Saturday.
Yeah.
Sunday trading hours are going to, of course, remain the same. That's been a long bugbear of this Conservative system.
Yes, no?
David Cameron tried to do it. There was some
Hello?
Boris
All right,
Johnson tried to do it.
Is that just a hangover of
Yeah,
church
okay, I'm
and
just
state, or
straightening
just
up.
religious?
It's an alliance between Christian Conservatives and trade unions on the Labour side, which means that there hasn't been a majority in the House of Commons.
Oh,
So
okay
every time
then.
the government brings it up, after lobbying from the retail industry, it's impossible for the government to go through the House of Commons because of that alliance from their own party, along with Labour MPs who have, strong links to the trade unions. And that's why it has never happened.
But the reason is this is just relating to this is a matter, of course, when it was given in 1994 to the local authorities to impose those restrictions, but it is of course possible to open for longer. You just need the permission of your local council. What the government is saying today is when you receive an application from Joe Blogg's local supermarket to open 24 hours, look quite favourably at this particular time, because of course, as well as making it a safe environment, the government also wants to encourage the retail sector, given the lockdown we just had and the closure of all shops.
Indeedy. You may be back.
I may be back. Just one other thing.
Hang on.
Oh, sorry.
Very late for the news. Sorry, it's just important. I'm never ever late for the news unless you're here leading me astray, being such a bad influence. 12:01.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at midday, ministers are due to publish an impact assessment of England's new system of coronavirus restrictions. Boris Johnson is trying to convince Conservative backbenchers to support the move in a Commons vote tomorrow, before the measures come into force a day later. Some are concerned the new tiers will do more harm than good and have questioned the process used to allocate them to areas. Shadow Cabinet Minister Kate Green has suggested Labour will back the latest restrictions.
We've always taken the view that the priority has to be the safety and health, public health of the nation. We've repeatedly supported the government when it's brought in necessary restrictions before. We will always support the right thing to keep the public safe.
The Health Secretary says new data suggesting coronavirus infections have dropped by 30% across England is encouraging. The research by Imperial College London relates to an 11-day period this month during the national lockdown. But Matt Hancock says despite the fall in cases, we can't afford to take our foot off the pedal just yet. The government has set out plans to reduce subsidies for farmers in England from next year. The changes to agricultural policy after Brexit, which will be brought in over 7 years, are being seen as the most significant change to farming for more than 50 years. The Environment Secretary George Eustace says the system of payments based on the amount of land farmed will be replaced.
What we're going to do in this new policy is gradually run down that old area-based subsidy and instead target the funding released to make space for nature on our farms, support farmers to farm in a more sustainable way to improve, say, water quality and soil health, and also to enhance animal welfare as well.
Passengers arriving at Gatwick Airport can now buy a coronavirus test. Quarantine time can be reduced if they get a negative result 5 days after landing. A website for passengers to book a test at the airport crashed over the weekend due to heavy demand. Unilever has completed the unification of its Dutch and UK arms and moved its legal base to London. The FTSE 100 firm, which makes brands including Marmite, Ben & Jerry's and Dove, announced the plan in June and has now informed shareholders that the move has been completed. Beavers have built a dam at Exmoor National Park in Somerset for the first time in 400 years. They were released back into the wild 9 months ago after becoming extinct in the 16th century. Experts say their reintroduction will help create pools of water which support wildlife including kingfishers, frogs, insects and bats. In the city a short time ago, the FTSE 100 was trading at 63.58, that's down 9 points. The pound buys €1.11 and $1.33. The weather, mostly cloudy with outbreaks of rain, which could be heavy for western areas. Sunny spells and a few showers in the north later, a high of 11 degrees. Newsroom, I'm Holly Harris.
I know it's here somewhere. I just had the tab open, but which one? There's a million. Oh, I know that one, not that one. No. Where are you, you shiny little phone? Oh, I know, search history. Oh, get rid of that. And that, delete.
Your search is over. Our best ever Black Friday is here. Save up to £400 on the stunning Samsung Galaxy S20.
Can we get food down there, or should I turn round again?
Let me see. Hold on. £40 off device plan and £360 airtime discount based on 36-month contract.
We need to turn.
Eligibility and terms apply.
This is LBC from Global.
Thank you.
All right then.
With James O'Brien.
There's nothing else in there
5
which
minutes
can
after
be
12 is the time. The British
salvaged.
pub is an institution. Sounds like the beginning of a...
Yeah. So I called the guy.
Do you want to get both of them downstairs, darling?
It's a British
Yeah.
institution. and vital to our collective future, writes Andy, for so many reasons. Politics and religion largely get a wide berth, and the pub conversation is a key part of any thriving and vital community.
I go right
We've lost
here,
so
don't I?
many. We can't lose
you
the
can go
rats.
through
Andy,
here if
as
you want.
regular listeners will know, is very
this one.
much preaching
Yeah.
to the choir as far as I'm concerned. But it did occur to me
where
that
he's
I am as
going.
guilty as anybody of falling into traps of making my own mind up and refusing to budge and forgetting to acknowledge the existence of other views sometimes. So I would like you to tell me, and indeed everybody listening, why you think the pub is important and does deserve special protection in the current crisis, or indeed why you think that
All right,
pubs
we're going to be
receive a
there in about 2 minutes. I've got the
disproportionate
doors.
amount
I don't know if they're all, but
protection
I've got
and
them. All right?
promotion in the way that many people
All right,
feel
thanks,
perhaps
thanks.
the
Ciao,
fishing
ciao, ciao.
industry has been
Ciao, thanks.
permitted by not
You
standing
have to
up
go
to
right.
people
You
telling
can't
lies
go-
10 years
Can't
ago.
go
The
right.
fishing industry
Can't
has
go straight
moved
across.
Well, it's one way.
far higher up in Brexity type considerations
you can, but you're not
than
allowed
any
to.
objective measures would allow. So
You
I
take
suppose
this
I'm
one.
worried that I am
Please.
feeling about pubs
It's going
a
to send
bit
him down.
like Nigel Farage feels about fish. Except of course, well, I'll leave you to decide whether there might be
They
any
both need to
differences
come
in
down,
our-
don't they?
in our outlooks. The Licensees Association was
black
good
guy
to know
goes
that
twice.
they are listening. Say the pub is the original social network. It's where our parents met. Do you know that might actually be true? I'll have to check with Mum after the show. But I think that might actually be true. It's where our parents met. I'm not, I should make clear, a sibling of the Licensees Association. We have
I think I
different
can
parents.
stop here.
They're not my brother or my
Yeah,
sister.
Just stop here for a
Well,
minute.
biologically anyway. It's where our parents met, it's where our children get their first job, and it's where our grandparents reminisce. It's where some eat, others watch the game, they support sports teams, they raise pounds for charity, a myriad reasons to back pubs. Do you know, you're absolutely right. I was trying to track down one of my paternal grandma's old pubs up in Leeds, and the first clue I got was her football team that still play under the name of a pub that no longer
Perfection,
exists.
you see.
At least they did so
Well,
10
you
years
wouldn't
ago,
do that
which was
if
a
you have to
reference I
drive
found
motorways.
to them online before I tracked
Let's
down the
just
building
burst
that
the
is now
tyres.
flats that was once my grandma's pub. 7 minutes after 12 is the time, but
Let me
I
get
am
some money for
obviously already converted.
he always
I
pays
am
the black guy,
I am
you know.
already the person who thinks
Yeah.
that pubs are very important. So give me a call now and tell me why they're not, or add, of course, to the case. How much existential threat are you facing at the moment as well? I mean, we spoke to Scott, who has a pub in Brentford, near me, down here, or up here in London, and he suggested that outside the smoke, you could be looking at a 30 to 40% disappearance rate. So, as one of David Cameron's
Don't have a
former
little bag,
speechwriters takes to the pages of the Times to insist that PM and punter alike must act to save the pub, I want you to tell me why you think it is, or indeed is not, important. 0345 6060 973 is the number that you need. Why do pubs play such a crucial role? Actually, I'm second guessing the question. Why do you think pubs play such a crucial role in British life? And are we right even in thinking or describing them as crucial? Here are the numbers now, you will get through. Publicans, as ever, particularly welcome, but you do know I have to ask you the question about how fearful you are about your future. I'll just take a moment, if I may, to have a look at your Scotch eggs as well, if that's all right with you, matron. So Theo explained this to me. I hope he doesn't mind me nicking his theory. But the Scotch egg Cornish pasty dichotomy, I think, would have been easier to understand if what's his chops Eustace this morning had been asked about Cornish pasties rather than Scotch eggs, because Robert Jenrick, honest Bob Jenrick, who told LBC last month that a Cornish pasty was not a substantial meal, seems to have been somewhat trumped today by George Eustace, who told LBC that a Scotch egg is
What is your name?
a substantial meal. The argument Jenrick deployed is that you have to serve it with chips or a side salad in order for a pasty to be a substantial meal, but a single serving of Scotch egg, i.e. a single Scotch egg, has suddenly become a substantial meal. Now, if they were comparing like with like, if they'd both been asked about the same delicious savoury food product, then it would have been a little clearer what's happened here, because when Jenrick answered that question, there were about 8 million people affected, which means it's a lot easier politically to sell the idea that you have to have chips or a side salad with your pasty to 8 million people. Now you're looking at tier 2 and substantial meal suddenly becomes 55 million people. So the idea of a pub being able to stay open if they serve Scotch eggs, unless he misspoke or rose back later, seems to me to have a political imperative attached to it, which is actually at odds with the public health guidance. Because you shouldn't change the policy according to the numbers affected. The policy should be there for reasons of public health, not political pragmatism. I hope that all makes sense. If it doesn't, blame Theo. He tried to explain it to me during the news. The time is 10 minutes after 12. The question is, why are we being a little bit dewy-eyed and even perhaps a bit Brexity when we get all emotional about British pubs? I feel that every pub closure is a sadness, but maybe you feel differently. You can come at this from either angle you want. And remember, when I bend over backwards like this to try to appear balanced, I'm almost always conscious of the fact that you are more likely to accept my invitation if I start laying down the law and something the desk. I'm not going to do that today because I know how I feel about the importance of pubs, and I know an awful lot of people agree with me. But, of course, the idea that they should be subsidised by the state is pretty close to socialism, which means it's possibly a little bit more politically complicated than current coverage allows. 12:11 is the time. Laura is in Bude. Not pubs, but weddings, which seem to go hand in hand. But you're all right. You're in Tier 1, Laura. You should be cleaning up.
Yes, no, definitely not. The restrictions on weddings do not change depending on what tier you're in. So I'm actually the only place in the whole of England that's in Tier 1. I still can't open my business.
You're the only wedding venue in Tier 1, you say?
No, I'm not the only wedding venue. There's lots of other wedding venues.
I was going to say, but you're in the only Tier 1. Yes, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. And you still can't do it?
No, we've been closed since March. Basically, the restrictions on weddings at the moment are 15 people, which is just
you can't wash your face, can you?
We can seat 200 in our wedding barn, so to say that we can only have 7.5% of our capacity, when other venues allow 50%, you're allowed to go to a football match with 4,000 people and have a live gig of 1,000 people, but we can only have 15 people sat social distance in our barn. It is crazy. We've received no other financial support, no different to what pubs and restaurants have done, but they have been able to open, they have been able to do takeaway services. We can't do takeaway weddings, we can't do anything other than a wedding. So we've been closed since March, but we haven't had any help.
Can I ask you an insensitive question?
Go ahead.
How are you surviving? I mean, do you have other income streams, or I mean, I don't want to pry, and I know this is the United Kingdom where we don't generally ask such questions, but I have been struck by. I mean, I know some people have gone down the plug hole, but I am slightly surprised that it hasn't been more. If that doesn't sound crass.
There are 40 wedding venues that I know personally that have gone under, that can't keep going. We personally have had 100% of our income taken away this year.
Well, exactly.
And we're now seeing a wave of cancellations for 2021 because couples are worried about what next year's going to look like, so they're now cancelling now for sort of, summer next year. So it's more loss of income for next year. But we are. Myself and my other half, we're part of the 3 million excluded, so we haven't even had any self-employment support either. So we're just living off our life savings at the moment, which are going very, very quickly down the drain. But but no one seems to listen or care.
Well, what would that look like? What would listening look like, or what would caring look like? Because
well, we as there's been different sectors, wedding sectors, the wedding venue support group and the association for the wedding businesses. They've been in talks with the government, the minister that was put in charge of weddings, but he didn't even speak to the sector for 16 weeks, just completely ignored us. We've been begging to be listened to, begging to be shown evidence where weddings are, this high risk category, which we're not. We don't even come up on the list. So where's the evidence to show that we're high risk? And also we've been begging to be allowed to do, what theatres and other industries are doing, which is rapid tests. If we can rapid test guests before they come to a wedding, then surely we should be able to go ahead with more than 15 people and save businesses and give couples the day they want. But they just won't listen to us. There's no evidence, there's no science, but they just ignore us. And You know, we have huge, when I say huge overheads that we have to pay each month as a wedding venue, whether we're closed or open. And we just, you know, the money is just pouring down the drain at the moment.
And is it indefinite? I mean, is everything hanging on the backseat really for you?
Yeah, I mean, we moved all of our 2020 weddings into 2021 and some into 2022 due to personal circumstances of the couples.
Yes.
But now those 2021 couples are getting worried and wanting to cancel or move again. So, you know, that we could be sat possibly with 2 years loss of income. No business can sustain being closed for 2 years and not having any financial support, which is...
No, I suppose, well, some can, but this was, oddly, it was a farmer that reminded us of how much debt a lot of people have in business, and rather than a public. And so if your venue is yours and it's on your land, you can mothball it in a sense, can't you?
Well,
but if you're servicing debt on it, it becomes a very different proposition.
Yeah, well, that's exactly where we are. To do what we did, we renovated the old family farm. We invested a huge amount of money into renovating the farm.
I'm familiar with this, not with your specific venue, but this is what a lot of, I mean, oddly, you've reminded us that all of the conversations we've had today are inextricably linked, aren't they? Because a lot of farmers have sought to accommodate change by diversifying. The chap we spoke to in Lincolnshire, I think it was, has gone down the glamping route. You've gone down the wedding route.
Yeah. So we used to be a dairy farm, but unfortunately it wasn't viable anymore. So we invested a hell of a lot into renovating it into a wedding venue.
Do you want to tell us what it's called for when things are back up? Although you're probably going to be run off your feet, aren't you, when things are back up and running?
Yeah, I mean, you know, next year could be our busiest year ever, but we are now seeing lots of cancellations because couples are worried that they can't have the day they want, and we can't give them, you know, any clarity because we don't know.
And it's a beautiful part of the world you're in as well, isn't it?
Yeah, Cornwall's beautiful, and you know, we're sat in 240 acres of countryside. So if we can't run a COVID-safe wedding, then how can pubs and restaurants do it? You know, we've got all this space, all this outdoor space, so we should be able to have more than 15 people here.
Do you want to mention the business? It's entirely up to you.
It's Lawson's Barton in Bude. So we're just trying to sort of get.
Say that again. Lawson's Barton.
Lawson's Barton.
That's a fairy tale. I'm going to have to look that up to find out a bit more about the derivation of it. Lawson's Barton. Fantastic. Laura, I wish you well. You know I do, and it does. I've just looked at it now. It does look absolutely gorgeous. And there is just one example of some of the people that are facing problems that the rest of us are not unaware of, but perhaps not fully appreciating the scale of. So, I'll fill you in a bit more on the pubs, but briefly, if other nations were facing a mortal threat to something they hold so dear, they would make sure they were saved, writes Claire Fogus in the Times, who I think used to write speeches for David Cameron. Now, I completely agree with her, but that's because I want to. Do the facts support the statement that the government should intervene to keep British pubs open? 0345 6060 973.
This is LBC.
When was the last time somebody bought something from your website? In fact, if you didn't have to pay money to search engines, would you be able to sell anything at all? With Golgi, you don't even need a website to sell your stuff online. Just go to golgi.com, add your name and product list, and start selling. Simple, right? The best part, Golgi doesn't take upfront fees or commission. It's all about you and your customers. So why make selling online complicated? Let Golgi do the hard work for you. Want to sell? Golgi.
That's GOLLGI.com. Somewhere there's a story of a missing Christmas letter. Not here though, because Lidl's award-winning drinks are better. With the world's best Cremant de Loire brew for $8.49 and hottest gins and liqueurs from just $9.99. Lidl. Christmas, you can believe it. Subject to availability, selected stores, excludes NI.
The first time my housemates see it, they're like... We all get in, seatbelts on. Flick that switch to turn on the motor. And we're off. I say, connect me, and the bass goes... And everyone's loving it when we hit the road. Back home from another mini electric journey, we're like... Search Mini Electric and don't just drive it, feel it.
If you're wondering what you can do with your pension pot, this could be how you're feeling. That's the sound of worry and uncertainty, but you could be hearing this. Let's call it the sound of clarity, which you can get from PensionWise, a government service providing free, impartial guidance. In just an hour, you'll get clarity on all your options so everything feels less and a little more. If you're over 50, visit pensionwise.gov.uk or call 0800 144 8944 and discover the power of an hour.
Get more from Black Friday with Lenovo. From 8 p.m. on the 26th of November, enjoy a minimum 10% off almost everything at Lenovo.com. And on Black Friday, discover amazing mega deals as they're released throughout the day. So keep checking Lenovo.com throughout Black Friday and enjoy incredible deals on laptops powered by Intel Core processors, desktops, tablets, gaming devices and more. Don't miss out. Spend Black Friday at Lenovo.com. Offer subject to conditions and availability.
It's the EE Black Friday sale and we've maxed out the savings. Save £462 on the amazing Samsung Galaxy S25G on a 10 gig plan. On the UK's #1 5G network, that's bigger than big. Next up, save £144 on a Galaxy Watch 3. That's beyond brilliant. Blimey, we got ourselves an off-the-scale sale. Act fast. This Black Friday, our offers end 7th of December.
Limited 5G coverage, 24-month plan. Terms apply. #1 for network performance. Verified ee.co.uk/claims.
Right now, for an amazing £5, the Co-op freezer filler deal gives you great value on 6 family favourites, including a pack of 4 Bird's Eye chicken burgers, a 340-gram pack of Bird's Eye mixed vegetables, and a 456-gram pack of Bird's Eye Alpha Bites. All for £5, down from £9.90. Now all you have to do is fit it all in there.
Yes!
Co-op, it's what we do. Subject to availability. See participating stores for details. Offer ends 8th of December.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC with James O'Brien.
22 minutes after 12, Mark Drakeford, First Minister of Wales, outlining the new hospitality restrictions for Wales. By coincidence, we were already talking about pubs, but it is pubs where attention will focus most obviously. From Friday, they will all have to close by 6 p.m. and will not be allowed to serve alcohol prior to that, so food only, and after 6 p.m. they will only be able to provide takeaway services. You're also looking at closures of cinemas, bingo halls, bowling alleys, soft play centres, casinos, skating rinks and amusement arcades, as far as I can tell. A little bit more on that as and when we have it, but Mark Drakeford currently outlining those new hospitality restrictions for Wales. We already know what happens next in England, of course. We move into tiers this week, and those tiers seem to have caused rather a lot of confusion and unhappiness, but I've said it before and I'll say it again. Medicine doesn't have to taste nice. Actually, I've never said that before. Why did I use? I've never ever said. I'm pretty sure you've never said that. But medicine doesn't have to taste nice. It's only really children's medicine that gets filled up with sugar and blackcurrant flavourings. Medicine tastes pretty rank usually. In fact, you might, like me, subscribe to the school of thought that the worse it tastes, the more likely it is to be doing something good. So I know it's not nice, and I know it's not pleasant, and I know that it's very difficult, and others will suffer more than others. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the government have got it wrong. And in fact, we should have opened the show this morning with the fact, the news that cases have fallen by a third overall across England, and by half in the northwest and the northeast, which you'll remember were in a form of lockdown more stringent than the south and the southeast before we went into the current one. This is research from Imperial College, so fairly compelling evidence that lockdowns work. And of course, it will be used to boost hopes that much of the north could be moved down into tier 2. But as the Welsh model reminds us, victories are temporary. These are what I always think it best to think of these things as flow control rather than eradication. The option to eradicate was there. Devi Sridhar at the University of Edinburgh is probably the best advocate, or at least the best explainer of that. It was an option. Other countries took that option. We didn't. Whether or not we could should have done is a debate for the ages. But what these lockdowns or these tier systems or these circuit breakers do is alleviate pressure. So if you see the graph and it's rising up a gradient, what these lockdowns do is seek to lower the gradient or to create a plateau. But then, unless we change our behaviour pretty profoundly, when restrictions are lifted, graphs start going up again. 25 after 12. Alan is in Glasgow. Alan, pubs, what can you tell us?
Hi James, how you doing?
I'm all good.
I'm trying to give you a wee bit of hope, a wee bit of hope. That pub in Glasgow was hit by a helicopter 7 years ago.
That was your pub?
Aye, they took a bath, yeah.
Oh, good grief, everyone listening is going to remember that story.
Yeah.
Well, carry on.
Well, anyway, what happened was they were everything for nearly 2 years without any revenue. And we all sorts of fights with helicopter companies and corporates, but we didn't really get any money after it.
Well, no, the insurance or I mean, I don't want to chapter and verse necessarily.
Well, the insurance was linked to. I probably can't say a lot of stuff. So
all right, no, well, let's not. I don't want you to embarrass yourself or what.
No, it's not embarrassing.
No, that was the wrong word. No, I understand. I
really, you know, at the end of the day, we didn't have the income, but we still survived. What I'm trying to say is the training came. It helped us. We were about a year and 7 months out of the game without any money. You know, similar to what we're doing now, we will survive again. We really need to face what's in front of us. It's very, very difficult, but it can happen. There's going to be casualties.
Your pub fairly plays, and people died, didn't they? I think 10 people died, seven from the pub, 3 from the helicopter. And
that's right.
And if you can come, I mean, I understand why you're here. You're telling us if you can come back from that, you can come back from this.
Yeah, definitely. Everybody can. You
That's
know,
inspiring.
there will be casualties. So what you need to do is face what's in front of you and do your best. Do your best for your staff and the community that use the pub. And that's what we've done. We started a charity after it. And basically the pub is going to be run like a charity, you know, so we've got back from that accident 7 years ago. And now we're facing this one again, the one we've got, which probably take us about a year. We are relying on the vaccine, which we hope will come in maybe March or something like that, hopefully. But we do come back, and it's maybe hopefully give people a wee bit of hope that you do come back from this sort of stuff.
I like your optimism, and I'm going to resist the urge to ask you questions and pick holes in that optimism, because sometimes I think you need to take the optimism to the bank. Obviously, there'll be businesses facing a very different set of circumstances to the ones you faced in 2013, 2015, or indeed 2021. But that's not the point. That's not the point of this contribution. If you can survive what Alan's pub survived, which was, I mean, literally a helicopter crashing in to the Clutha, as I would pronounce it, killing all 3 crew and 7 patrons of the pub, then you can survive the restrictions of tiered lockdowns. 28 minutes after 12 is the time. Paul's in King's Cross. Paul, what do you reckon?
Morning, James.
Hello.
How are you?
Very well, thanks.
Yeah, we definitely need to keep the pubs open in every way, shape or form.
Why? And you know you're preaching to the choir with me, but there's always going to be give and take here. Why should we look after the pubs and not look after the wedding venues for it? So just give me your answer to that question.
I mean, you go back years and years when everybody used to go to their local pub. It was where they knew everybody. It was
but they don't anymore.
Where you went. But that's it. Everything has moved on. Pubs now serve food. They now serve entertainment. Everybody moves around, they live in different places, work at different times. And given that and moving on, there will be less pubs, but the pubs will be better.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, the sort of survival of the fittest type argument isn't necessarily what the pub trade want to hear at the moment, any more than the farming trade want to hear that, oh, it's going to be great, there's going to be more competition and some of them will go bust. But I take your central point, the gist of your central point, which is that somehow it feels like pubs are really, really important, but I'm normally fairly hard on people who are bringing feels to fact-based conversations. I find the notion of a community hub very compelling, but that's not going to apply to most of the pubs in city centres, is it? They'll be doing their trade with office workers, and if the office workers don't go back to the office, what's going to happen to the pubs? There's a lot here to pick over. We'll continue to do so shortly. I want to catch up with that situation in Wales, which I explained to you a moment ago, and I would quite like to move on to this bizarre prioritisation by the Secretary of State for Culture of the Netflix series The Crown. I could only stick one episode of it, one episode of one series. It just doesn't float my... Everyone's looking at me like I'm mad. It just doesn't float my boat. It really doesn't. But I can see why it's so compelling and addictive, but the idea that the punters need to be told that it's not 100% historically accurate, well, it just seems a little bit pathetic to me. Maybe I need your help in seeing the wisdom of the Secretary of State for Culture's intervention. Time now for the very latest news headlines with Tim Humphrey.
The health, economic and social data behind England's new coronavirus tier system is due to be published later, with MPs due to vote on the measures tomorrow. A number of Tory MPs have indicated they're prepared to vote against the measures because they feel they're too strict. New restrictions have been announced for Wales from this Friday. Pubs, restaurants and cafes will have to close for all but takeaway at 6 p.m, and no alcohol can be served even with meals. Passengers coming into Gatwick Airport can now buy a coronavirus test. Their quarantine time could be reduced if they get a negative result 5 days after landing. The weather, rain in the west this afternoon, but sunny spells in the north later on with a few showers and a high of 11. LBC.
Martin here runs his own building business. He's got a tool for everything. Nail gun for nails, screwdriver for screws, and QuickBooks for finances. QuickBooks makes doing his tax return easy, automatically checking for the most common errors. Martin hardly has to lift a finger. Well, maybe one.
Visit quickbooks.co.uk for details. Intuit QuickBooks. For the latest travel news, go to lbc.co.uk. This Black Friday, get a spectacular 50% off Sky Sports when you take Sky Signature for £25 a month. Enjoy unrivaled live Premier League coverage.
As good as it gets.
Every F1 race. And many more unmissable live sporting events. For new and existing customers, visit sky.com today. Offer ends November 30th. New 18-month minimum terms for Sky Signature and Sky Sports. Discount on out-of-contract pricing with 18-month minimum terms. Set up £40, get loaned at no cost.
Missed the PPI deadline? Don't worry. Fast Track Reclaim, a claims management company, can check PPI on every credit card, loan and mortgage you've ever had. And with Fast Track Solicitors legal action, you could still claim it back, even after the deadline. Find out. Text yes to 82727. You don't need a claims company to check PPI and can claim through a solicitor of your choice.
Fast Track Reclaim. Text yes to 82727.
After the year we've had, everyone deserves to have a stress-free festive shopping season. You can say that again. Get Christmas clicking at tkmaxx.com for amazing big brand gifts for all your loved ones. And they deliver straight to your door. Splendid. Find big love at small prices this Christmas at tkmaxx.com.
Euronics is different. Independently owned electrical retailers in over 600 local stores across the country, offering great brands, great service, great value, and always proud to be local. That's the Euronics difference. And right now they've got some great deals from leading brands like Bosch, Neff and Siemens. So it's always worth a visit to see your local independent Euronics retailer. Find yours or shop online at euronics.co.uk.
It's the EE Black Friday sale, and we've maxed out the savings. Save £462 on the amazing Samsung Galaxy S25G on a 10 gig plan. On the UK's #1 5G network, that's bigger than big. Next up, save £144 on a Galaxy Watch 3. That's beyond brilliant. Blimey, we got ourselves an off-the-scale sale. Act fast. This Black Friday, our offers end 7th of December.
Limited 5G coverage, 24-month plan. Terms apply. #1 for network performance. Verified ee.co.uk/claims.
Hello, I'm Vicky Butler-Henderson, racing driver and motoring journalist, and I'm passionate about empowering consumers. If you currently own or have owned a Mercedes diesel vehicle made between 2009 and 2018, you might be eligible for thousands of pounds in compensation due to their alleged use of emissions controlling devices. To join the claim and find out if you qualify, visit mercedes-emissionsclaim.co.uk or text JOIN to 85222.
This is LBC.
Now, you may have noticed, if you are a listener to LBC on the Global Player, on your phone or on your computer, that we are asking you to sign in to continue listening. This is quite exciting because it's the next evolution of the LBC and Global Player app. It means we can do lots of new and clever things. The first thing to stress is that it's totally free and there is no catch. It means we can make sure we tailor some great extra content that's personalised just for you by recommending shows and podcasts. Plus, if you're signed in, you'll get personalised content for all of LBC's sister stations like Classic FM, Smooth, Heart, Gold and Capital. And again, it's all for free, so please remember to sign in next time you listen to us at LBC on the LBC or Global Player app. I'm James O'Brien. You're listening to LBC. It's 12:35.
James O'Brien on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
It's 25-1. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC, where we're about to have a radio phone-in about a television programme that I've barely watched. What a time to be alive. 0345 6060 973 is the number that you need. And the reason I jest slightly is because I cannot for the life of me imagine that it is a matter of national importance for the Secretary of State for Culture to write to Netflix demanding a form of health warning at the start of each episode. We may be doing Oliver Dowden a grave disservice here. We may have been stitched up by the Mail on Sunday, and comments which he made in passing have been elevated into what the Mail on Sunday described as a dramatic intervention. In fact, it's pure tabloid ease, isn't it? In a dramatic intervention. Oh my lord, there's been a dramatic intervention, auntie. What's happened? The Culture Secretary added his voice to mounting concern and a dramatic intervention, auntie. This is getting serious. There's been a dramatic intervention and there's mounting concern. What is it? Scenes in the drama series were so damaging to the royal family that viewers should be warned at the start of each episode that it was not fact. Okay. Now, if theatres weren't facing existential threat, if cinemas weren't teetering upon the blink of commercial oblivion, if film and television production in this country hadn't ground to a shuddering halt over most of 2020, and indeed if live music venues and sundry other performance hubs weren't facing potential extinction, you might just be able to make a case for the Secretary of State for Culture prioritising a television programme's makers and insisting that they tell viewers it's not completely real. However, I don't want to upset you. If I want to upset you, I will. I'm not turning into a complete pussycat at the moment, but I am conscious of unnecessary tensions and unnecessary aggressions. So it's perfectly possible that I'm missing a really important piece or a really important point here. And in order to try to work out whether I am, I thought I'd have a look at what the Mail on Sunday reported yesterday, and the reasons that were given for requiring Netflix to put a sort of health warning at the beginning of The Crown. So, first up, and most obviously, if you watch it and are bang up to date on it, and you have a different view from me, then you might want to record the next bit of the programme, because it's not something I'm going to say out loud very often. Your opinion is considerably more important and better informed than mine. I watched one episode of the new series of The Crown. I caught myself getting interested in it. I reminded myself that we're essentially glamorising people whose entire achievement in life was an accident of birth. That's why they're in The Crown. I'm not suggesting they're not very admirable and important individuals in their own right, but the only reason you know they exist is because they were born into the royal family. And to see it sort of presented on television a bit like a soap opera just stuck in my craw a bit. So what is the problem that has prompted Oliver Dowden, the Culture Secretary, to stage a, quote, dramatic intervention in order to insist that Netflix, the platform, starts putting a sort of warning at the beginning of every episode, making it clear, as Oliver Dowden apparently said, I fear a generation of viewers who did not live through these events may mistake fiction for fact. I'm not sure there's anybody alive who lived through the private exchanges of Prince Charles and Diana, Princess of Wales, or indeed their sort of key courtiers and supporters, but it obviously refers to the public perception of these key events. And I mean, this is, I never know in journalese. A friend of Prince Charles apparently told the Mail on Sunday on Saturday night, it is quite sinister the way that Morgan is clear, that's the scriptwriter Peter Morgan. For once, Piers isn't involved in this particular brouhaha, although knowing Piers Morgan, he'll probably try to get stuck in on some level later this afternoon. But right now, the screenwriter Peter Morgan is accused of doing lasting damage to the monarchy, Prince Charles in particular. It is quite sinister the way that Morgan is clearly using light entertainment to drive a very overt Republican agenda, and people just don't see it. To which I would respond by saying, well, if you know it's light entertainment, why do you need to put a warning on it telling people essentially that it is light entertainment? Okay, that is what I want to know. And I might be able to scoff or mock or at least be befuddled by this, but I haven't watched it, so it may well be that there's a serious point I'm missing. It's going to have to be a very serious point, though, given that a friend of the Prince described it as light entertainment, while also apparently endorsing the idea that people need to be told it's light entertainment. I suppose we could start with you telling me whether you're watching it under the mistaken impression that it's 100% accurate and historically sound, and Peter Morgan had somehow gained access to the innermost thoughts of the Prince of Wales and his former wife, his late ex-wife, without anybody actually knowing how he'd achieved it. I guess what I'm suggesting to you is I watched it, I took it all with a pinch of salt. I presume everybody intelligent is capable of doing so. Therefore, this dramatic intervention must be about something else. What's it all about, Alfie? 0345 6060 973 is the number that you need. Julie is in Stroud. Julie, what's going on?
Hello.
Hello,
James,
Julie.
I also don't watch Netflix.
This is going to be a brilliant phone-in, this. You're only allowed to phone me to talk about this programme if you've never watched it. It's like doing Stop and Search and talking exclusively to old white men.
Yeah,
Carry on, Julie.
The reason I've never watched it is that it will be yet another example of us never being told anything honest or accurate about the monarchy.
Yes, but it is a drama. I mean, what do you want from it?
Well, I don't think it will be a particularly interesting drama. I think that ordinary everyday theatre puts on things that are far more interesting than what Netflix is likely to put on.
Well, we're not having a crack at Netflix. They do some great stuff. What I want you to tell me is why you think the Secretary of State for Culture believes that British people need to be told it's not a documentary before they can enjoy what is described everywhere as a light entertainment.
Well, I think it's just part of the business of distraction. We're with a government that has failed abysmally to handle the coronavirus.
Have you tried believing a bit more?
No. And also, we're about to go into a very serious economic catastrophe for the country with Brexit. So this is just part of that whole business of distracting us.
And who does this? Because I mean, I guess what we're describing is a constituency of people with whom historically I have some beef. I'm not going to refer to any other meat products, but I think we all know of whom I am talking. And this is designed to appeal to them. So it's good old Oliver Dowden sticking it to those lefties by telling Netflix. Right. And I mean, on this occasion, are our friends from the pork product part of the country, are they really I mean, is there any upset about this? Because I read it in the Mail on Sunday. It was the first I'd heard of it.
Well, I suspect a lot of people are like you and just regard it as light entertainment. Yeah.
But is there is it going to work? Is it chicken and egg? Is there an atmosphere? He's starting a fire. Are people going to gather around it to warm their hands? I just don't see it on this occasion.
Well, what happened with regard to all that business about Jerusalem in the summer?